Hey, I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog. I'm working on the footband of my entwinement socks. So today I'll demonstrate how to do twining in the round and we'll show you how to manage your yarns both English and continental style. You'll also get to see how I'm using twining to create a slightly different design than the more traditional herringbone-like zigzag. Let's get started. Twining is a Scandinavian technique that usually is done with two colors of yarn. Essentially, you're just working in stockinette stitch, and the knit side of your fabric either has these thin columns of vertical stripes, or it may look more like a tiny little checkerboard. The magic happens on the purl side when you twist your yarns around each other as you alternate colors with each stitch and you alternate the twist direction in each round or row. Most of the time, you're going to twist your yarns in one direction between each stitch for an entire round or row, and then untwist in the opposite direction between each stitch for the next round or row. I use this technique to create the flap of my sock, and it creates this zigzag herringbone-like texture. Instead of using the same twist for an entire round or row, you can make your twining look even more intricate by twisting in one direction between a few stitches, then the opposite direction for a few stitches. And that's the technique I'll be doing today. When you're twining in the round, if you want your twists to be seen, you'll most likely be purling all of your stitches and alternating colors between each stitch. I'm going to create this stacked diamond design by twisting in one direction for 4 stitches and then in the opposite direction for 4 stitches. This particular pattern works if you're knitting around a multiple of 8 plus 4 stitches. When I'm twining English style, I tension both yarns just as I normally would, and then I use my index finger to separate the two yarns. For the first 4 stitches, I'm going to pass the yarn for the next stitch over the top of the yarn from the previous stitch. And I like to insert my needle into the stitch before I make the twist. So the yarn comes over, 1, hold your separation with your thumb, and then make the twist with your index finger. The yarn comes over, 2, hold the separation with your thumb, make the twist over with your index finger, 3, and 4. For the next 4 stitches, the yarn for the next stitch comes underneath the yarn from the previous stitch. So insert my needle to stabilize, bring it under to twist, 5, so I'm going to make the twist with my thumb and then use my index finger to hold the separation, bring the yarn under, 6, twist with the thumb, Hold the separation with the index finger, bring the yarn under, 7, twist with the thumb, bring it under, and 8. And now I'm back to the beginning of my repeat, and I'll be twisting over. And you can continue on in that manner around the entire design. When I'm twining Continental style, again, I tension my yarns just as I normally would. This time, I don't separate the two yarns with my index finger. Instead, it's pretty manageable to separate and help make the twist just with your thumb. So for the first 4 stitches, I want to make sure the yarn for the next stitch passes over the top of the yarn from the previous stitch. So I like to insert my needle into the stitch to stabilize things before I make this twist. I'm going to grab the yarn for the next stitch, pass it over the top of the yarn from the previous stitch, and guide it up over my needle. 1, the yarn for the next stitch comes over the top of the yarn from the previous stitch. 2, separate and over. 3, and separate and over. 4. For the next 4 stitches, I want the yarn for the next stitch to pass under the yarn from the previous stitch. So insert my needle before the twist, separate and twist under. 5, separate and twist under. 6, seven, yeah, separate, and under. 8. And then I'm back to the beginning of my repeat, and now the yarns will pass over. So you would continue in this manner around your entire pattern. Besides the fact that you can create more interesting twined patterns than the traditional herringbone zigzag, one of the biggest advantages to reversing the twist direction every few stitches, rather than with every round or row, is that your yarns are going to stay a lot more manageable. They won't become overly twisted as you twine. I hope you enjoyed learning how to do twining in the round. And if you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your knitting friends. If you'd like to try this technique in a pattern, head over to the shop section of thechilidog.com and look for our entwinement socks. Until we stitch again, happy knitting!